This video is brought to you by Evoto. Get beautifully edited photos in seconds.
We're professional photographers, Tony and Chelsea Northrup, and we're gonna give you some tips for getting gorgeous pictures outside. We're gonna take your portraits from this to this.
We're going to be overcoming things like terrible lighting and locations, teaching you how to choose a background, camera settings, gear, and even how to use some natural and not natural lighting to improve your photos. So let's get started. Let's talk about location. Sometimes you can be drawn to a spot that you remember being beautiful, but once you get there, there aren't really any beautiful opportunities for photos. So you want to make sure you go someplace first and scout your location. Make sure you're legally allowed to be there. There are a lot of parks like Central Park in New York City where you need a permit to shoot there. Make sure you're bringing your clients to a safe location. So there might be a spot where there's a lot of traffic or photographers get robbed there often. Now that the logistics are out of the way, you want to make sure your location has actual photogenic areas. So right now we're very fortunate. We're at Harkness Park in Waterford, Connecticut, and it offers a variety of really beautiful photo locations. We have the natural framing of these arches. In the summer, we have these beautiful pathways with gardens and flowers that make nice leading lines and frame your picture nicely. So go to your location if you're able and actually take pictures to make sure you can put your clients in a place that will look good. I've done senior portraits before where the boy that I was photographing was on the football team, and I take him to a nice football field and have the leading line of the benches or the scoreboard in the background. Consider your location as a place that's also going to be a part of the storytelling.
I'm gonna take a couple of pictures of Chelsea without you even moving to a different spot, just to show how much the angle I'm facing, the background I choose, makes a difference in the pictures. Look, this is a beautiful spot. Everything around here is gorgeous, but looking at the pictures, you can see some of those are better than others. As a photographer, take a second and scan the background and make sure there's nothing too distracting in there. If you can't create a simple, pleasant background where you are, try zooming in as far as you can. Also use the lowest possible f-stop number. I've been working with a 24-70 lens, which is good for events and portraits, but it's also fairly wide angle. Telephoto lenses compress the face more and generally make facial features look nicer, but by being telephoto, even at 200 millimeters, that means more and more of the background disappears. So I'm gonna change to a 70-200 lens and just show you how big of a difference that makes. Using a lens hood helps to block out any stray light and reduces unwanted glare. Man, look how 200 millimeters at f2.8 blurs the background. Even if the background was complex at that focal length, it all just kind of disappears. And that means there's no distractions in the photo, that whoever views the picture will be focused on your subject, just like you are when you're taking a picture of the person.
I have a quick tip. It's called the one eye rule. Often when you're choosing a background or a location, you're looking at it with your three-dimensional eyes, taking a picture with your 2D camera and wondering why they don't look the same. So if you cover one eye and look, it's going to flatten things in the frame and give you a better idea of how they'll look in the picture. And you're going to notice some things. You close one eye and suddenly you're going to notice there's a stray branch or a power line or something in the way. Try it out. It's incredible how easy it is and how much it works. Another way to find a good background is to use some key compositional elements like natural framing and leading lines. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to look at these two pillars here, and you can see that if I'm not perfectly centered, then it's not a very good composition. But if I get right in the middle and have the columns framing me, there's nothing coming out of my head. Tony can move the camera higher or lower to make the background simpler. Maybe Tony wants to put the camera closer to the ground and it will be framing me even better. And it doesn't have to be pillars. It could be a door frame. It could be trees. It could be plants. It could be any number of things, but it's going to make your subject look even better in the frame. People are very good at picking up at tiny little micro expressions. So if your subject looks awkward or uncomfortable, even if you have the best background and lighting, it's gonna look weird. Some ways to overcome this is to be friendly with your subject from the beginning. When you meet a client, you always want to be like approachable and make them feel at ease. Usually I find like the last 20 minutes of my shoot, I'm getting the best expressions out of them because they're comfortable with me. They know the way I work. It's very vulnerable for people to be in front of the camera. So keep that in mind. Don't be critical of them. I like to give good feedback, show them my pictures, ask them which photos they like. A lot of people have a mirror smile where you ask them to smile and they're like, but you just saw they had a beautiful smile. So what I like to do is loosen them up, have them do other things, and get a candid smile out of them and catch that. Once you do that, I give good feedback. Like, that was great. Oh, you look so natural. You look really loose. Like, you're doing it right.
We've all had portrait shoots where the client refuses to smile. You can actually create a smile in Evoto and it looks pretty natural. Then you can adjust it and make it exactly what you were looking for. So when you do have those uncooperative clients, think of Evoto.
To make posing less awkward, I'll do it for them. I'll be like, all right, have you sit like this, put your leg out, lean down like this. And then once you're doing it, it's not so awkward anymore. They're not the only ones being vulnerable. But Tony, I'm gonna have you sit like that. Your hands look good. I like your watch. You want that in the picture? And then I'm gonna have you look off over there towards the ocean and look all the way back around and back at me. And introducing movement loosens people up nicely. Often people will be stiff. Smile for me. They don't want to lose their expression. They're stiff. Have them look around. Have them step into the frame. You can tell them, take a few steps forward and smile. And you're going to loosen up their face a bit.
Most people, when you first meet them, they will just stand with their shoulders square. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, say cheese. None of that was right. Instead, what I'm gonna have her do is turn her body a little bit, and I'll model with my own body. I'll say, rotate your shoulders a little bit, and yeah, face off that direction. Yeah, move your whole body. Yeah, there you go. Good, now point your nose off just a little bit over there. That's good, and then put your eyes right on me. Yeah, that's really nice. When your subject has their shoulders tilted to the camera, there's more depth to the image, and they also look a little bit thinner. When their nose is turned just a little bit off center, it adds more depth to the face, lets you see more of the cheekbones, and is generally nicer. It's called a 3/4 look. But you don't want the tip of the nose to break the line of the cheek, or that makes the person's nose look a little bit bigger. By default, most people will stand with their arms just kind of hanging down. It's good to give them a little bit of direction on what to do with the arms, the hands, and the legs. One really easy thing to do is to just have people sort of hook their thumb into their pants pocket. That puts a natural little bend in the elbow, and then with their legs, sometimes they just want to put the knee out just a little bit. Posing is really hard, so hard that both the model and the photographer need some experience with it. The less of the body you include, the less that there is to pose. It also creates a simpler composition. It is nice to get some full body shots, but especially with portrait clients who aren't experienced models, I will make most of my shots fairly tight headshots because those are simpler. There's just less to go wrong.
Flip screens as a shorter person have saved me because sometimes I have to hold above my head or use an apple box or a stool to stand on when I'm taking pictures. But this lets me be eye level with him. And I always zoom out on a few more than I want to just to leave some room for cropping. If you're taking pictures of pets or little kids, it's nice to get right down on the ground with them and get them eye level. It's interesting, and it also blurs the background in a cool way.
You don't always get to choose when or where or what the weather conditions are going to be, so you have to know how to make the best of the conditions you have. And one thing you don't want to do is to put your subject's face right in the sun. Like, I have the sun in my eyes right now, and it makes me squint. It also casts like hard shadows under my eyes. You can bring shade with you, and that's a diffuser. Have an assistant hold it up to cast shade on your subject.
This is me in full sunlight. I'm very squinty and you can see hard shadows on my face. Tony, diffuse me. Ah.
When it's cloudy, that's not great either, because then you'll get shadows under your eyes, what we call like raccoon eyes. For that, reflector helps. And yeah, there's inexpensive gear to help with that too. Reflectors like these have two sides. This is a gold side, which will cast gold light onto your subject. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this to bounce light onto the model. So that's with the reflector, that's without the reflector. With, without. Gold. Evoto can rescue photos taken in bad light. First, we'll adjust the exposure, switch to the portrait retouching tab, clean up my skin a little bit, get rid of those eye bags, no more dry lips, get rid of just a couple of wrinkles. The light casts my eye in shadow, but I can bring that brightness up. I can even add a natural looking catch light. This is before, this is after just seconds of work. Thank you, Evoto. If you can't make your own shade, a better solution is to put the sun behind your subject. They'll be nicely backlit, but their face might be a little dark. Fortunately, that's something you can improve in editing.
In a lot of the pictures that we've taken so far, The light has not been good. Tony's had shadows on his face, we're squinting, we're getting hard lines and showing textures. Even though beautiful photos can be taken in natural light, I like to use strobes and flash sometimes to have more control over the light. So Tony right now is setting up a strobe light on a stand. We have an Octo softbox right here, and that gives you a big soft light, which is very flattering. And then of course a sandbag on the bottom because it's actually kind of a windy day. We're right on the ocean. I have my strobe on. I have my remote shutter release here, and I'm not actually going to go through the whole setup now because that's an entirely different video. In fact, we have an entire flash guide. I will go over the basics, and that's that I have the strobe pointed a little bit down on Tony. You don't want it underneath your subject because that's unflattering. And I'm using a little bit of light just to reduce the harshness of the sun. Look at the difference. The shadows are filled on his face. It's much more flattering. But I want to point out something else you might not have thought of. If you are shooting on an especially green summer day, you get color casts and it can make your subject's skin tones look green. Popping a flash can neutralize the colors in the color cast in your scene. Now, this is just kind of a standard boring setup, but once you learn how to use flash or strobes, you can get really creative. So in this exact location, I took a photo of my niece once where I used a gelled strobe to make it look like sunset. So I put an orange gel that's like a little thin, clear piece of plastic over the light, and then you pop it and you put it low like it would be sunset, and you get these beautiful colors. Once you learn how to control your light, you can really create a more dramatic scene, and that's going to distinguish you from other portrait photographers in your area.
I love this spot, but there's no light here. And I'll just show you what you get when you don't have any light. That's not too bad, but there's no catch light and the light on her face is just kind of bouncing from everywhere. I can fix all of that by just adding a strobe here. The way I want to set this up is just a little bit above her eye line, pointing down at her a little bit. To get the softest light possible, I want it to be as close to her face as possible. That makes a relatively large light source, and that's going to help fill in any little pores and stuff and just kind of soften the light and make it more attractive. You can see that by controlling the light, I was able to put a catch light in her eyes. I was able to cast a nice shadow underneath her chin, underneath her nose. But most importantly, I was able to control the light and get the results I want, no matter what the weather did, no matter what the sun did. And that's why a flash or a strobe is so powerful. It gives you control.
That's pretty much just the basics of taking portraits outside. If you want to learn more about how to use your flash or your camera settings or a strobe, you can check out other videos on our channel. Also, we have an entire photography book. We have a flash tutorial series. So if you're interested in any of those, you can check out our store and our YouTube channel. And of course, thank you Evoto for sponsoring this video and for making photo editing easy and attractive. I mean, I can edit photos that used to take me a whole photo shoot for a client would take me hours. Now I edit one photo, I apply all those edits with a preset, and it takes me far less time.
Yeah, and if your client shows up and they have a blemish or their shirt is a little bit wrinkled, like Evoto fixes it in just a few clicks. It's a miracle.
Oh, glare in glasses, really amazing. And you can get 15% off. Go to stp.io/Evoto. And if you use the coupon code Tony15, you get 15% off. So thanks, Evoto. All right, we did it. It was a lot. Whoa. Also, having a wagon like this is so helpful. You can carry all of your gear out to your photo shoot without having to actually hold it.